Hello and welcome to Sectors Up Close. I'm Ramzan Karamali. Today we're talking about European natural gas prices, and my guest is Bryan, Director for Natural Gas at the London Stock Exchange Group. European natural gas futures have ticked up in recent weeks. After hitting a 2024 low around the end of February, prices of the benchmark European natural gas future have steadily climbed in recent weeks. This despite the fact European economies have now survived a second winter without Russian gas. Part of that, of course, was down to mild weather, and part was due to continued demand destruction. Well, to unpack all this and to help us understand where prices are headed, I'm now joined by LSEG's Bryan. Wayne, thanks so much for joining us. Well, let's start with those prices. Why have they started to rise since the end of February?
Good afternoon. And yeah, indeed, what we saw was prices had fallen, but we had a combination of bullish factors that saw prices. We were in a nice 23 to sort of 28 range. First, we had supply issues at LNG, on the LNG front. So we saw a few issues at Train 3 at Freeport LNG. Then you had Russia-targeted Ukrainian gas storage facility, which, as you know, due to the fragility of our markets at the moment, I think that really had an impact as well. Thirdly, you saw some outages on some Norwegian infrastructure, and you've also had the impact of the EU's decision to look at ways that European companies can negate the need to import Russian and or Belarusian LNG and pipe gas. So you had this confluence of events just sort of happen, and then we saw prices really react. But if you see in the last couple of days, we've seen prices start to fall back. And interestingly, both of the benchmarks, both for the TTF and the NBP, sort of hit their 200-day average. Sort of resistance was there, and they're steadily trickling back down. We've still got that geopolitical risk premium in there as well. And the Middle East situation has also been contributing with that just simmering away in the background. So, yeah, a number of reasons, really.
And let's drill down into that Middle East conflict and the geopolitical tensions. I mean, what do you make of that in terms of the impact? You say it's not a huge impact.
On the gas market, it doesn't have a huge impact on supply unless we start talking about closing the Strait of Hormuz and start talking about other issues with shipping. That's where the upside risk comes from the gas market. In terms of the actual supply, not a huge risk. But as you know, with these geopolitical situations, as risks start to rise, contagion occurs, and not only do related markets like crude get a hit, but you see the hit in equity, you see gas markets also. So a lot of that is sentiment driven. But in terms of geopoliticals, one of the main influences is obviously the Russia-Ukraine situation, and the targeting of those gas facilities was really, really quite a shock to the markets because previously they'd not been touched. And of course, the transit agreement expires at the end of next year, or the end of this year, sorry. So that also lays, it lays seed that we will see further attacks. Now this deal is now going to expire and is very, very not looking likely to be renewed, to be honest. So yeah, a combination of these factors.
Now, in your research, you talk about demand destruction on the gas market. Can you just elaborate on that, please? Can you explain what that actually means?
Yeah, what we've seen, a combination of since COVID, we saw it sort of the other way, but since the Russian invasion of Ukraine, we've seen prices rally to all-time highs, obviously a lot lower now. But what that did is, number one, it changed consumer behaviours. A lot of the messages coming from political leaders, reducing gas. Obviously, some people can't really afford to heat their homes when prices were so high. We've kind of kept some of them behaviours. We've seen alternative ways of heating homes, energy-saving measures, heat pumps. So what we've seen now is that evolution of that behaviour has continued. Despite prices falling, we're still seeing demand destruction in Europe, UK included, at around 8 to 9% of pre-invasion levels. If you look at Germany, it's been a bit of the outlier, still around 12%, but the message has been very hard from the Germans. And then we go to industrial demand. We've seen industrial demand destruction. It's around 12.5% now at the moment, and that's quite strong. And again, several factors: high price environment, curtailing the large users like your chemical sector, paper, metals, chemicals. These sort of sectors really, really use a lot of gas, and the high prices force them to A, curtail production, B, offshoring. So we've seen some production moved offshore, and C, adjusting production hours, and also, again, taking measures to reduce energy consumption by way of efficiency. So a combination of these factors has kept demand destruction firmly in play in both the LDZ, which we call domestic, and the industrial sector.
Let's look at LNG now. What's your outlook there for prices, and can Russian LNG still play a part?
Russian LNG still comes into Europe in very, very large levels. And again, we had a new ruling whereby the EU have now given its member states the ability to sort of block Russian and Belarusian gas and pipeline LNG imports. So what that's done, even though we've not seen any member states take it up yet, and I think it still needs to go completely passed as law, which is a formality. What that will do, I mean, at the moment, we can't really do without Russian LNG. But what we do see in winter 2025, so October 25 onwards, we see this large waves of LNG coming online, global capacities rising. So what that will do is allow us to find other sources for our imports. And of course, Russia's LNG will just find its way back into the market. So the overall global balance won't change. It's just a redistribution of the flows.
And finally, Wayne, what's your outlook for prices for this summer and for the winter ahead?
Well, for the summer, I'll stick to our published research. We give a sort of price range for the TTF of around 21 to 24. Prices were heading nicely towards that level until the recent bit of upside, but we still stand by our view. We still think storages will be filled ahead of the mandated level from the EU. We've still got quite a few bearish factors, including lower demand from the power sector, lower industrial demand, etc. Winter, we see a lot more risk in the winter still. We've got the end of the transit deal, which means no more Russian gas at all, pipeline-wise, into Northwest Europe. And then what you also have next year is a loss of, or this winter is a loss of further German coal capacity, tightens up the market. And if we do get a cold winter, then definitely we'll struggle to fill storages, struggle to get storages to the sort of levels we saw at the start of this summer, which of course will bring upside pressure on the prices. So a bit more concern around the winter. Summer's looking like smooth sailing at the moment.
Wayne Bryan, Director of European Natural Gas at the London Stock Exchange Group. Many thanks for your thoughts. And that is your roundup of the European natural gas sector. I'm Ramzan Karamali, and this is Reuters.